Bitcoin is a train in the station with the doors open and they just
Right.
rang the bell saying we're about to go.
Right. I
That's
see what you're
what,
saying.
that's
You're saying I have $1. Where do I put it? Do I put
that's
it
what I'm
into
saying.
Bitcoin or do I put it into Uber?
Right.
I get what you're
So
saying.
if what we're saying is at this moment right now, we don't, you're right. You can never time the markets, and there are returns to be made in the markets. And you could argue that there are 10x returns to be made in the markets. But if you have $1 right now, where do you put it?
Bitcoin.
For me,
No, I agree.
I'm saying put it into Bitcoin. That thing was sitting at $3,000 in March.
Twice actually.
Twice, okay? It would have popped over 10,000 in February, and that would have been off to the races if it wasn't for this COVID thing. This COVID thing is giving a temporary pause on what looked like a huge bull run for Bitcoin at the beginning of this year.
All the good investments that I've believed in over time, every time I pulled out too early, I never let the runners run. Do you know what I mean? When I had Bitcoin at $300 and then I sold at $600, I was a winner.
Right.
And now at Bitcoin at 10,000, I'm a goddamn loser.
I am totally with you. I'm totally with you. But speaking specifically to Bitcoin as an investment is on a different return schedule.
Definitely. Well,
than
yes.
stock.
Yes.
And with Bitcoin,
it's a 10x minimum.
With Bitcoin, in order to get that 10x minimum, it isn't like there are buying windows, and when those windows close, they're gone. And right now, I mean, for someone with more money, maybe you're comfortable buying Bitcoins at $20,000. I think 10,000 is the end of that point where I feel comfortable buying them.
Me too. We both, I think, believe that Bitcoin is a 10x thing, but we both could be wrong. Let's just face it. That if we are wrong, then that's each Bitcoin you buy is 10,000, like literally down the toilet.
Right.
But the upside is so great, in my opinion, that it's worth risking some cash that you don't need.
Right.
For that 10, 20x return. Right now, we're talking Bitcoin, but the halving happened, right? So now half the Bitcoins are produced every time there's a block mined. It went from, I think, 12 Bitcoins or 12 and a half to 6 Bitcoins being produced in every block. That means every miner now is, well, it's struggling right now it's a struggling point. So this is the point where Bitcoin is sort of, I think it'll be volatile. I'm not saying it just go straight to 20K, but as the miners figure it out over the next year or 6 months, then we'll see an increase, because then the miners are also incentivized to hold more Bitcoin and not sell it. So if people are actually incentivized to keep holding it, but right now they're trying to figure that out, right? Because they still need to make money for their machines and blah, blah, blah. Bitcoin's price will be pushed up just because of, just like gold. If you can't get enough of it out of the ground, the price of gold goes up.
Yeah, it's worth more.
The same thing will happen here. It's harder to get out of the computers, pull those bits out.
Yeah. Well, but the other part of it too is it's also, there's that part of it, the creation part of it, where people are creating coins. There's also the part where people are just buying it in. Every peak is a sell point for somebody who bought in 2 or 3 levels below you. So the guy that bought the Bitcoins at 600 when you were selling,
right, that motherfucker.
That guy that bought a bunch of Bitcoin, say at 600 or $1,000, is looking at this price at 10,000 and saying, I'm not selling till it gets to 20.
Yeah.
Whereas you bought it at $1, $10, $15, whatever it was. You go, oh my God, I made $600. I'm going to buy. I'm going to sell at this point. So, but what happens is, as those people get flushed out, the ones that are made all their profit,
new people are coming in.
Replaced by those people, whether it's miners or retail, like the people coming in, those all those Coinbase people that open up accounts when they see it. That's what needs to happen. Recently, it feels like it keeps trying to test that $10,000 price.
It crossed it for like a split second.
There is a lot of resistance there because people are selling out, right? The other day, though, it actually went down to like 9,026. So it's starting to kiss that $8,000 number again.
I think in 10 years, it's $1 million a coin. I'm not kidding. I think it's around $1 million a coin, because just the math of it, if you do the math of the number of Bitcoins out, the number have been lost, it's probably $1 million. Some people are saying 10 million. Forget about 10 million. Even if it's 500,000.
I know.
Okay.
Well, $1 million a coin might be 10 years out. But
because it's going to crash at around, okay, as soon as it hits around to 100, 200,000, you know what, there's going to be a crash and a correction because something can't go up just 1,000x without returning. So it might go up 10, 20, 30x and then correct. And then it'll start to build another base. And maybe that base is now at 50,000. So now me and you are completely priced out because that base is at 50 grand, even though it went up to 200. We're thinking this is a deal, but we can't afford anything.
Right. That's why you have to buy. But this is why
it's going to correct. This is why I have to buy now. So you should have absolutely, everyone listening to this podcast, everyone should have one Bitcoin. And I know it sounds like a lot of money. I know 10 grand is a lot of money, but goddamn, you're going to be the happiest person in the decade. The whole market cap of all of crypto, not only Bitcoin, Bitcoin's like 150 billion, okay? But all of crypto is less than 300 billion.
Which Apple is like.
Apple is 1.5 trillion.
Right. Apple has Bitcoin in a drawer.
Apple could buy the whole crypto space and just destroy it, basically, if they wanted to, okay? My point is it's so small that any institutional players or even retail investors that start to accumulate and come into this market, that's why I say in 10 years, like it's definitely $1 million, because if you work out the math, there's not even enough Bitcoin to go around to everybody who wants one. Okay, right now,
everyone tried to sell.
Right now, well, if everybody tried to sell at the same time, it would tank. There is a market that goes on.
Right, but what you're saying is like there's not enough Bitcoin actually to support the.
Well, like if every millionaire right now said, I want to buy a Bitcoin, there's not enough actually being traded for them to buy it. It's not I forgot the statistics. We should, once again, we're not doing an episode I'm looking at, but it's only tens of thousands of Bitcoin that get traded daily. Not millions of Bitcoin get traded. So you see the same Bitcoin going back and forth.
Right, millions of dollars, but it's the volume. Max supply, 21 million Bitcoin. Circulating supply, 18 million.
The thing is, okay, so max supply, a lot of people believe there's actually, and remember, all of them are not, okay, so let me explain those numbers since you actually have something up there. Max supply is how many will be produced in the lifetime of Bitcoin. That's 21 million, okay? The circulating supply is currently how many were actually mined till today. Today is 18.4 million mined. So there's still like 3 million left to mine. And that's it. No more will ever be produced. We are so close. But of course, as it goes on, every 4 years it halves and whatever. We're not going to get into all that. Now, if you look at the actual volume, so the volume of 24 hours, look how many Bitcoins. It's 2 million are actually, I guess, exchanged in the last 24 hours. Out of the 18 million. Yeah, bought and sold out of the 18 million. So most people are actually hodlers. It's not tens of thousands, it's 2 million. So I was wrong about that. But most people are still hodling it. Most people are holding it in their wallets and not trading it. You see what I'm saying?
No, and that's what we're doing because we're all waiting for that number.
I am not trading Bitcoin. I've already traded it once when it was around 600. I am done trading Bitcoin. I'm not smart enough to trade Bitcoin.
In that 1 year, say it went from 2,000 to 20 in less than 7 months, which means that something like that it would go from 9,000, it would ramp up to say 100,000 by the end of the year. Let's just say if that happens, there's a huge freaking sell-off. You know, it could drop back down to 20,000, 30,000. Like you said, that becomes the base. Mm-hmm. We're priced out and we're basically in until it hits 150, 250, 300,000. But if you look at that 16-year cycle, that video,
yeah,
16-year cycle of it.
Give a shout out to Bob Loukas for his videos.
I mean, Bob Loukas given a 16-year cycle. Every other thing has been right. And he went back in time and looked at his video of a year before to see if he was right. The path wasn't exact, but where he said we'd be and roughly the price point is accurate.
I think he's accurate in saying that this is going over 100,000. Absolutely.
But there's a psychological barrier at 10,000 that must be passed.
There is a psychological barrier.
And once it passes that psychological barrier, there's nothing stopping it till it.
Well, no, the next one is 20.
It's 20 because we've seen that number.
After 20,000, what happens is that every media will now start to cover this. It'll be another massive bubble that's going to start to form because as we see Bitcoin go to 25, 30, 35, all the retail investors, again, will be mortgaging their house because they think it's time to get rich again, instead of like me and you discussing it when nobody's really paying attention, except probably institutional investors now. A lot of retail is not paying attention anymore. Like
people
2017.
have an eye on it, even if they're not talking about it, you know they have an eye on it.
Like this is your last chance. people aren't just, even he was into it, by the way, too. And he's just not watching it the same way he was, because
Yeah, but
2017 was unique. It was hitting all-time highs. Everybody was into it. It was a media frenzy.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen again. And me and you are going to capitalize off that media frenzy.
Well, yes.
Yes.
That would
it's
be
going to
the
run
idea.
up. And that's why my plan is Bitcoin has to be sold in stages. Maybe a little bit at 30, maybe a little bit at 50, maybe a lot at 100, maybe almost all of it at 150 to 200. Because if you're trying to keep it to hit 1 million, I think that's a 10-year window, and I don't think that's happening this time around. I really don't.
Well, look, I mean, if Bob Loukas is right, you'll get to that 150, 200, let's just say anywhere between 50 and 250,000.
Yeah, he thinks somewhere
April.
around 250. That's what he thinks, just to be
Okay.
clear. Bob Loukas thinks $250,000.
Okay.
Past April, it's over 20 grand. Anyway, over 20 grand, me and you are priced out. I'm not buying anything else over 20 grand.
I'm not buying anything anymore.
Because I can't take that chance anymore.
No. And I think at a certain point too, you've leveraged enough where if it hits, you're set. You can't.
Right. If me and you are buying an average of 9,000, 8,000, even 10, whatever, anything over 20, you literally doubled your money. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin doesn't stop when it doubles. That's not what it does. It's either going to be 5 to 10x, or it's like, what's the point of this thing? And everybody knows it, right? So I agree with you there. So I think even a 10x from 10,000 is $100,000, which is a great profit for anybody to start taking some money out if it's going past 100,000. If it's actually going past 100,000, God help you if you're not selling at least one of these things. This is the play now. Next year, April and December. This is the play. Everyone has to remember this. It's anywhere between $20,000 and $250,000.
Right.
And all you got to do is wait a year and a half. It's insane. If this is true, we don't know if this is true yet, by the way. If this is true, in 2 years, me and you are done.
Do you see why I'm like? Do you see why
it's a big if, though? It's a big if. It's not a little if.
Listen, it's a big if. It's a big if. But this is now, if you look at the 16-year cycle, what we are approaching is the third and the fourth peak.
His bigger thesis is that it might go into a long bear trend for like another 4 years, basically, of just down. But even in his prediction of the bear trend, it still never goes back to $10,000.
No, in the bear trend, he says, I could see it maybe going back down to 20. It goes back
20,
down to
30,000.
Right.
And Bitcoin never goes all the way down. Like everyone wants it to just touch the $1,000. But these last couple of years, it was like, oh, it's going to go down to 1,200, going on 1,500. And I was there like waiting. I was buying on the way down, but I was like waiting for 1,500. I was like ready for like 20 grand. Just jump in.
Yeah. Never happened.
I could keep waiting. It's not going to happen. My dreams, because everybody's waiting for that. Everybody knows that is an amazing price.
It's all of this money that the Fed is dumping into these assets. And it's actually devaluing the dollars that we're using to buy these assets.
Like I think you said this earlier, there's a floor now to what stocks are worth.
Yes. We're now at that floor.
Well, the Fed basically, even if it goes down 20, 30%, there's a floor. The point is, it's not going to what your your all-time bottom is, because the Fed has said that's not happening. They literally said, we're just going to buy up everything. It's not happening. Okay. Right. So everyone who's waiting for some fucking drop like to 17,000, 16,000, the world has to fall apart. Literally everything has to.
Listen,
you're not going to worry about stocks if this happens, by the way. The world has to fall apart. Right. The Fed has to go bankrupt, which is not going to happen. They print money. Right. The government has to go bankrupt. The government has to stop supporting, sending stimulus checks out. This is not going to happen again. They have already determined there is a bottom, there's a floor, but it might not be. It might say, look, $29, that's what you're going to get. That might be it. I have no idea. Because
you're right. They've moved up the bottom. I mean, basically
they moved it on us.
All of that.
They printed money.
All of that bear market that we saw was the Fed's injection pushing the market up. That's basically what it was. Okay.
I think it's that. I think all this bullshit of retail traders sitting at home on Robinhood buying everything, that's BS. We don't move shit. Okay. Me and you and our $10,000 don't move garbage. Okay. Right. Institutional investors sitting with billions of dollars, they're moving the market. Yeah. And they felt 30% down for Microsoft is a fucking good bet. And they were right. Okay? So, and the Fed, of course, dumping money into everyone's hands who's rich. Because honestly, the Fed pumping money only helps the rich.
55% of Americans have money in the markets, and 45% of Americans have no money in the markets,
Yeah.
which means their wealth is tied to the value of the dollar, not their assets. And so you're making the rich richer exponentially, and you're also making the poor poorer, which makes the rich richer by comparison.
No one teaches people about how money works. And in America, the way money works is you have to buy assets, whether that's houses and gold and Tesla stock and Microsoft stock. If you keep your dollars in a bank thinking you're saving, oh God, you're an idiot. Because if you kept that dollar for 30 years, that dollar is worth 30 cents.
It's worth a lot. It's worth less. I'm seeing
it's worth 30 cents of your dollar.
I'm seeing it when I'm going into the grocery store. I'm seeing it like
inflation.
I'm starting to see it.
For food, at least. When you have zero Bitcoin, you better do what you're saying.
Even if Bitcoin, say it goes to 18,000.
Right.
And it starts hovering around there. I'm not buying Bitcoin at 18,000. Right. So I'm not going to participate after that point.
If you wait 2 months to buy your next thing, it could be gone. Like, I totally agree with you there. It could be lower too, but it could be totally gone. It could be 14,000.
Totally. And one thing that I think is really important to make the distinction to the 6 people watching this, and the 2 of those.
We have 70, almost 70 subscribers, buddy.
What's up, 70 subscribers?
I'm just drinking.
The one thing that I think is really important to stress to anyone that is actually thinking of taking this advice is Bitcoin trades 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Which is both good and bad, because then you think like you should be trading this at 3 a.m. and I've done all that shit.
Well, it's
the worst.
The peak could hit at 3 a.m. because it's a worldwide thing. And the peak could hit at 3 a.m. So you set alert. But my point is, every 20 trading days in the market is 30 trading days of Bitcoin.
Right.
And if you
it's even more than that, because it's 24 hours a day.
It's 24 hours a day. Yeah. 60 days is a tremendous amount of movement.
That's a lot of trading. Absolutely. It's 24 hours all around the world. Imagine. Okay, you're bringing up a great thing. This is another reason it's going up. This is not a stock in the United States of America.
Right.
This is a world event. So when the world participates in this movement,
so that's why those moves are so fast.
It's a 10x move. It'll be when it actually starts to participate like it did in 2017. That's why I still believe this is a 10x move. I believe the 100,000 is going to get hit. I don't know how far it's going to go, but I believe the 100,000 is going to get hit.
Well, if you followed what Loukas was saying towards the end, he's saying there's 4 peaks in the 16-year cycle, and we're coming up on the 3rd one. And again, only the strong will hold for that 4th one. And he says what I expect on that 4th one would be a left translated, which means it's going to happen in the first 2 years of the 4-year cycle. And it would ramp up again starting in 2021 or 2022. So after next year, it would start to ramp up again. And he goes, where it goes, I don't know. And he goes, but anywhere between 400,000 and 650,000 is not crazy.
Well, just to be clear, everyone should watch this video. We're going to link to it. But that last peak, he's not as confident. He wasn't as confident even in the video about that he says it might happen, like 400,000 to 600,000. But he's super confident about the 100 to 250,000.
The 100 to 250,000.
And honestly, for me and you, that's a game changer by itself.
Well,
that's already a game changer.
And I researched it. Yeah, no, that's a game changer. If you have 5,
and being greedy, trying to wait for the $400,000, it's good to keep one around. I'm not saying not to keep one around.
1 or 2 around.
But if you had a couple laying around and you were trying to wait for that, that might be your biggest mistake, because I think there's going to be a big tank after that 250,000, 100 to 250,000. It's going to be a massive drop. When it's ready to go, like we're discussing, regular people will be completely out of this game.
You want to talk about moving fast? Like you said, it is worldwide and it's 24 hours while you're sleeping. I mean, that's what happened with 2017.
I was up paying attention, by the way. I was up like...
Oh, I remember. It was December 17th. I remember
I was
sitting
up
there close to Christmas. I was sitting there like, holy shit.
I was looking at my portfolio. I was really happy until January hit, and then I wasn't happy.
And then,
Yeah. And then it spent the next year and a half tanking.
Bitcoin's ups and downs aren't like a stock going up and down where the stock, it could be reacting to news, right? It's not like that. So that's why those big swings, they don't worry me. What does worry me is, like you said, where you miss it and you don't cash out, whatever. So that's why I want to have enough Bitcoins where you can make mistakes. You can cash one out too early and you can cash one out too late and you're still good because you kind of, you know what I'm saying?
It's worth more than $10,000. As long as you believe that, even if it falls to 6 or 5, you know, hey, it's worth more than $10,000.
Right.
And this is either a buying opportunity or you're just going to wait it out because you have enough.
It's rarity and it's
Right.
used to us makes it valuable.
Right. So Bitcoin is basically like that. It's a digital gold, and more people every day believe that. And that's why Bitcoin is worth now 10,000 instead of 1,000 like it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
3 years ago, we would have been talking about this saying, oh my God, $1,000 is a lot of money for Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. But we still believe it'll go to 10,000. That's what we would have been saying.
That's right. Right. And that's part of what Bob Loukas' thesis is on this thing, is if you watch it and you just follow what it is, just having that information is what makes you calm as you're going through these big dips.
Right.
It's 24 hours, it's worldwide, and it's also, you can buy fractional shares. So if you're out there thinking, oh my God, I don't have $9,000, get 1,000 in there. That $1,000 will grow 10x. You'll have $10,000.
Right. Basically get a tenth of a Bitcoin, exactly 0.1.
And turn it into a Bitcoin.
Right away, when you buy one Bitcoin, you just have to have an exit at that point.
No, exactly.
And if your exit is $100,000, do not touch it because you're not smarter than the market. As soon as the Fed prints $2.2 trillion.
All of a sudden, exactly.